Welcome to Stories and More, Time and Place. Before we explore some stories together, tell us who you are. Choose your name from the list, then press OK. Or if your name is not on the list, please type it now, then press OK. Which book would you like to explore? The House on Maple Street. A story can take place over many different time periods. Can you dress these children with clothes from the past, present, and future? Drag stickers from the closet to the children. Wow, they look great! Fabulous! Now that's showing style. Nice combination. What an outfit! Fabulous! What an outfit! Now that's showing style. Nice combination. Wow, they look great! To change the background, click the red switch. What an outfit! Now that's showing style. Nice combination. Wow, they look great! Let's read The House on Maple Street to see who might have lived there. To hear the page read to you, click the red dot.
William Morrow and Company, Inc., New York. Text copyright 1987 by Bonnie Pryor. Illustrations copyright 1987 by Beth Peck. This is 107 Maple Street. Chrissy and Jenny live here with their mother and father, a dog named Maggie, and a fat cat named Sally. "300 years ago, there was no house here or even a street. There was only a forest and a bubbling spring where the animals came to drink. One day, a fierce storm roared across the forest. The sky rolled with thunder and lightning crashed into a tree. A deer sniffed the air in alarm. Soon the woods were ablaze. The next spring, a few sturdy flowers poked through the ashes, and by the year after that, the land was covered with grass. Some wildflowers grew at the edge of the stream where the deer had returned to drink. One day, the earth trembled, and a cloud of dust rose to the sky. A mighty herd of buffalo had come to eat the sweet grass and drink from the stream. People came, following the buffalo herd. They set up their teepees near the stream, and because they liked it so much, they stayed for the whole summer. One boy longed to be a great hunter like his father, but for now he could only pretend with his friends. In their games, one boy was chosen to be the buffalo. His father taught the boy how to make an arrowhead and smooth it just so, the way his father had taught him. But the boy was young and the day was hot. He ran off to play with his friends and left the arrowhead on a rock. When he came back later to get it, he could not find it. The buffalo moved on, searching for new grass, and the people packed up their teepees and followed. For a long time the land was quiet. Some rabbits made their home in the stump of a burned tree, and a fox made a den in some rocks. One day there was a new sound. The fox looked up. A wagon train passed by, heading for California. The settlers stopped beside the stream for a night, but they dreamed of gold in places far away and were gone the next morning. Other wagons came, following the tracks of the first. The fox family moved into the woods, but the rabbits stayed snug in their burrows until the people had gone. Soon after, a man and a woman camped along the stream. They were heading west, but the woman would soon have a child. They looked around them and knew it was a good place to stay. The man cut down trees and made a house. He pulled up the tree stumps left from the fire and planted his crops. The child was a girl, and they named her Ruby and called her their little jewel.
What's that?
Ruby had a set of china dishes that she played with every day. One day, when she was making a mud pie on the banks of the stream, she found an arrowhead buried deep in the ground. She put it in a cup to show her father when he came in from the fields. Ruby's mother called her to watch the new baby. While she was gone, a rabbit sniffed at the cup and knocked it off the rock. It fell into the tunnel to his burrow, and the rabbit moved away to a new home under the roots of a tree. Ruby grew up and moved away, but her brother stayed on the farm. By now there were other people nearby, and he married a girl from another farm. They had 6 children, and he built a larger house so they would all fit. Now the old wagon trail was used as a road, and the dust got into the house. When his wife complained, Ruby's brother planted a row of maple trees along the road to keep out the dust and shade the house. After the children were grown, he and his wife moved away, but one of their daughters stayed on the farm with her husband and children. One day, the children's great-aunt Ruby came for a visit. She was an old lady with snow-white hair. The children loved to hear her stories of long ago. She told them about the cup and arrowhead she had lost when she was a girl. After she left, the children looked and looked, but they never found them, though they searched for days. The town had grown nearly to the edge of the farm, and another man up the road filled in the stream and changed its course. For a while there was a trickle of water in the spring when the snow melted, but weeds and dirt filled in the bed until hardly anyone remembered a stream had ever been there. New people lived on the farm. It was the school teacher and his family, and they sold much of the land to others. The road was paved with bricks, so there was no longer any dust, but the maple trees remained. The branches hung down over the road, making it shady and cool. People called it Maple Street. Automobiles drove on the road along with carts and wagons, and there were many new houses. The house was crumbling and old, and one day some men tore it down. For a while again, the land was bare. The rabbits lived comfortably, with only an occasional owl or fox to chase them. But one day, a young couple came walking along and stopped to admire the trees. "What a wonderful place for a home," said the young woman. So they hired carpenters and masons to build a cozy house of red bricks with white trim. The young couple lived happily in the house for several years. The young man got a job in another town, and they had to move. The house was sold to a man and a woman who had 2 girls named Chrissy and Jenny, and a dog named Maggie, and a fat cat named Sally. The girls helped their father dig up a spot of ground for a garden. But it was Maggie the dog who dug up something white in the soft spring earth. "Stop!" cried Chrissy, and she picked up the tiny cup made of china. Inside was the arrowhead found and lost so long ago. Who lost these? The girls wondered. Chrissy and Jenny put the cup and arrowhead on a shelf for others to see. Someday, perhaps their children will play with the tiny treasures and wonder about them too. But the cup and arrowhead will forever keep their secrets, and the children can only dream. The end.
Can you help remember what happens in the story? Please put these sentences in the correct order. Find the sentence that tells what happens first. Drag that sentence to the number 1. Drag a sentence to a number. The land is a forest home for deer and buffalo. Buffalo hunters spend the summer on the land. Who comes to the land? Maple trees are planted along the road. Not quite. That doesn't belong here. Settlers arrive in covered wagons. What does Ruby's brother do to keep dust out of the house? Maple trees are planted along the road. What happens last in the story? A family finds a china cup and an arrowhead. Great job! You remembered the order of the story. The land is a forest home for deer and buffalo. Buffalo hunters spend the summer on the land. Settlers arrive in covered wagons. Maple trees are planted along the road. A family finds a china cup and an arrowhead. The house on Maple Street takes place over different time periods. Which stickers and scenes belong together? Drag the animals to the scene where you saw them in the story. Good job! Super match! The family on Maple Street has a pet dog and a fat cat named Sally. You've got it! Horses and carts are used to deliver items in town. Now match these objects to the correct scenes. Excellent! Native Americans use canoes to travel. Nice work! The settlers travel in covered wagons. That's right! A Maple Street family has a car. Drag these cooking items to the correct scene. Terrific! Native Americans are shown grinding their food. Super match! The settlers ate around a big iron pot. Excellent! The family on Maple Street used an electric toaster. This time, match the homes to the scenes where they are found in the story. You've got it! Native Americans live in teepees. Nice work! This house is on Maple Street. Good job! The farmers live in a house they built. Way to go! You matched all the stickers to the correct scenes. Let's create our own story. Begin by selecting different words. Click the levers to choose words. 10 days. Cheese curls. Traffic cone. Cellular phone. Cooking. Satellite dish. Comic book. Toys. Click Go to read a story with these words. It is the year 3025, and our computer class has found a time capsule full of treasure. It must have been put there about 10 days ago. We found an ancient food, cheese curls. We were warned not to eat any. There was also something called a traffic cone. I think people used to wear this as a hat. They must have looked really strange. The cellular phone must have been some kind of tool used for cooking. The satellite dish was used for shelter from rain and snow. I can't read the primitive language in their comic book, but it might be a message asking us to buy toys. 2 leap years. Bubble gum. Pizza. Grape jelly. Chocolate chips. Lollipops. Cheese curls. Bubble gum. Pizza. Tire. Lampshade. Flashlight. Remote control car. Microscope. Bicycle. Television. Cellular phone. Flashlight. Building. Drawing. Farming. Cleaning. Sewing. Cooking. Remote control car. Building. Drawing. Toilet paper. Sports magazine. Candy. Holograms. Newspaper. Baseball card. Photo album. Videotape. 100 years. 1,000 years. 1,000,000,000 years. 1,000,000,000,000 years. 10 days. 2 leap years. 100 years. 1,000 years. It is the year 3025, and our computer class has found a time capsule full of treasure. It must have been put there about 1,000 years ago. We found an ancient food, pizza. We were warned not to eat any. There was also something called a lampshade. I think people used to wear this as a hat. They must have looked really strange. The remote control car must have been some kind of tool used for drawing. The toilet paper was used for shelter from rain and snow. I can't read the primitive language in their videotape, but it might be a message asking us to buy holograms. Duct tape. Dollhouse. Baseball hat. Skateboard. Satellite dish. Toilet paper. Duct tape. Farming. Cleaning. Sewing. Cooking. Building. Microscope. Bicycle. Television. Cellular phone. Flashlight. Remote control. Microscope. T-shirt. 1,000,000,000 years. It is the year 3025, and our computer class has found a time capsule full of treasure. It must have been put there about 1,000,000,000 years ago. We found an ancient food, pizza. We were warned not to eat any. There was also something called a T-shirt. I think people used to wear this as a hat. They must have looked really strange. The microscope must have been some kind of tool used for building. The duct tape was used for shelter from rain and snow. I can't read the primitive language in their videotape, but it might be a message asking us to buy holograms. Comic book. Sports magazine. Computers. Dog food. A trillion years. Grape jelly. Lunchbox. It is the year 3025, and our computer class has found a time capsule full of treasure. It must have been put there about a trillion years ago. We found an ancient food, grape jelly. We were warned not to eat any. There was also something called a lunchbox. I think people used to wear this as a hat. They must have looked really strange. The microscope must have been some kind of tool used for building. The duct tape was used for shelter from rain and snow. I can't read the primitive language in their sports magazine, but it might be a message asking us to buy dog food. Shampoo. Toys. Roxaboxen. A story can take place anywhere, even in a desert. Make your own desert setting by dragging stickers into the picture. Roadrunner. Cactus mouse. Desert cottontail. Prickly pear cactus. Hedgehog cactus. Hedgehog cactus. Cactus mouse. Desert cottontail. Prickly pear cactus. Prickly pear cactus. Creosote bush. Creosote bush. Desert tortoise. Quail. Coyote. Rattlesnake. Cactus mouse. Teddy bear cactus. Ocotillo. Desert tortoise. Greasewood. Greasewood. Gecko. Sagebrush. Sagebrush. Whale. Road. Whale. Desert tortoise. Let's read Roxaboxen and find out about the special place in this story. To hear the page read to you, click the red dot.
Roxaboxen by Alice McLaren. Illustrated by Barbara Cooney. Lothrop, Lee & Shepherd Books, a division of William Morrow & Company, Incorporated, New York. Text copyright 1991 by Alice McLaren. Illustrations copyright 1991 by Barbara Cooney. Marian called it Roxaboxen. She always knew the name of everything. There, across the road, it looked like any rocky hill. Nothing but sand and rocks, some old wooden boxes, cactus and greasewood, and thorny ocotillo. But it was a special place. The street between Roxaboxen and the houses curved like a river, so Marian named it the River Road. After that, you had to ford a river to reach Roxaboxen. Of course, all of Marian's sisters came. Anna May and Frances and little Jean. Charles from next door, even though he was 12. Oh, and Eleanor, naturally, and Jamie with his brother Paul. Later on there were others, but these were the first. Well, not really the first. Roxaboxen had always been there and must have belonged to others long before. When Marian dug up a tin box filled with round black pebbles, everyone knew what it was. It was a buried treasure. Those pebbles were the money of Roxaboxen. You could still find others like them if you looked hard enough. So some days became treasure hunting days, with everybody trying to find that special kind. And then, on other days, you might just find one without even looking. A town of Roxaboxen began to grow, traced in lines of stone. Main Street first, edged with the whitest ones, and then the houses. Charles made his of the biggest stones. After all, he was the oldest. At first, the houses were very plain, but soon they all began to add more rooms. The old wooden boxes could be shelves or tables or anything you wanted. You could find pieces of pottery for dishes. Round pieces were best. Later on, there was a town hall. Marian was mayor, of course. That was just the way she was. Nobody minded. After a while, they added other streets. Frances moved to one of them and built herself a new house outlined in desert glass, bits of amber, amethyst, and sea green. A house of jewels. And because everybody had plenty of money, there were plenty of shops. Jean helped Anna May in the bakery. Pies and cakes and bread baked warm in the sun. There were 2 ice cream parlors. Was Paul's ice cream the best or Eleanor's? Everybody kept trying them both. In Roxaboxen, you can eat all the ice cream you want. Everybody had a car. All you needed was something round for a steering wheel. Of course, if you broke the speed limit, you had to go to jail. The jail had cactus on the floor to make it uncomfortable, and Jamie was the policeman. Anna May, quiet little Anna May, was always speeding. You'd think she'd like to go to jail. But if you had a horse, you could go as fast as the wind. There were no speed limits for horses, and you didn't have to stay on the roads. All you needed for a horse was a stick and some kind of bridle, and you could gallop anywhere. Sometimes there were wars. Once there was a great war, boys against girls. Charles and Marian were the generals. The girls had Fort Irene, and they were all Girl Scouts. The boys made a fort at the other end of Roxaboxen, and they were all bandits. Oh, the raids were fierce, loud with whooping and the stamping of horses. The whirling swords of Ocotillo had sharp thorns, but when you reached your fort, you were safe. Roxaboxen had a cemetery in case anyone died, but the only grave in it was for a dead lizard. Each year, when the cactus bloomed, they decorated the grave with flowers. Sometimes in the winter, when everybody was at school and the weather was bad, no one went to Roxaboxen at all, not for weeks and weeks. But it didn't matter. Roxaboxen was always waiting. Roxaboxen was always there. And spring came, and the Ocotillo blossomed, and everybody sucked the honey from its flowers, and everybody built new rooms, and everybody decided to have jeweled windows. That summer, there were 3 new houses on the east slope and 2 new shops on Main Street, and so it went. The seasons changed and the years went by. Roxaboxen was always there. The years went by and the seasons changed, until at last the friends had all grown tall, and one by one they moved away to other houses, to other towns. So you might think that was the end of Roxaboxen, but oh no. Because none of them ever forgot Roxaboxen. Not one of them ever forgot. Years later, Marion's children listened to stories of that place and fell asleep dreaming dreams of Roxaboxen. Gray-haired Charles picked up a black pebble on the beach and stood holding it, remembering Roxaboxen. More than 50 years later, Frances went back and Roxaboxen was still there. She could see the white stones bordering Main Street, and there, where she had built her house, the desert glass still glowed. Amethyst, amber, and sea green. The end.
In Roxaboxen, the children create their own town with different people and places. Can you remember their names and some places they create? Drag each word to the picture it matches. Drag a word to a picture. Bakery. Good job! The bakery had bread baked warm in the sun. Mayor. Great match! Marion was the mayor, of course. Fort Irene. That's right! The girls had Fort Irene. Jail. Terrific! The jail had cactus on the floor. Frances. Oops! Frances doesn't live here. Lizard. You've got it! The only grave in the cemetery was for a lizard. Frances. You're fantastic! Frances lived in a house of jewels. Way to go! You matched all the people and places correctly. The children use their imagination to describe things in Roxaboxen. Find matching pairs behind these boxes. A match is a word and the picture it describes. River Road. Buried treasure. Table. Bandit. Bandit. Horse. Jewels. Sword. Steering wheel. Horse. Jewels. Table. Buried treasure. Table. Imagine that you could create your very own Roxaboxen. Use stamps and sounds to build your Roxaboxen. Choose a picture and start stamping. Galimoto. Now read Galimoto and find out more about Condi.
Galimoto by Karen Lynn Williams, illustrated by Catherine Stock. Lothrop, Lee & Shepard Books, a division of William Morrow & Company, Inc., New York. Text copyright 1990 by Karen Lynn Williams. Illustrations copyright 1990 by Catherine Stock. Condi opened an old shoebox and looked inside. These were his things. They belonged to him. Inside the box there was a ball made of many old plastic bags, tightly wrapped with string. There was a knife Condi had made from a piece of tin can, and a dancing man he had made from dried cornstalks. In Condi's box there were also some scraps of wire. He had been saving the wires for something special. Now he took them and the knife from his box. I shall make a galimoto, Condi told his brother Ufulu. Ufulu laughed. A boy with only 7 years cannot make such a toy. You don't have enough wire. I will get enough wire, Condi answered. Condi took his knife and wire scraps and went to the home of his friend, Gift. I want your wires, Condi told Gift. I'll give you my knife for them. Why do you want the wires? Gift asked. I want to make a galimoto, Condi answered. Gift ran his fingers over the tin knife. It is a good knife. I'll cut a dancing man with it. Gift took a handful of wires from his box of things and gave them to Condi. That's not enough wire for a galimoto, he told his friend. I will find enough wire, Condi said. Condi put his wires into an old white plastic bag and took them to the shop of his uncle. Good day, second son of my brother, his uncle greeted him. How can I help you? I want some wire, Condi told his uncle. How will you pay for it? I have no money, Condi answered, but you have wires on your old packing boxes from the city. They would make a fine galimoto. So, you want to make a galimoto? The son of my brother is a clever boy. Take the wires. Condi could hear the grinder at the flour mill. Many women with babies tied on their backs waited in the hot sun. Others arrived carrying heavy baskets of maize on their heads. Condi squeezed through the crowd. He was very near the front door when someone grabbed him. The women began yelling angrily, "Stop that one! He goes out of turn!" Condi was being pushed and shoved. Suddenly the mill stopped its grinding. "What is it?" the miller shouted. The women pointed at Condi. "Ah, no," Condi said. "I have no maize to grind. I only want wires for a galimoto." He opened his bag for them to see. "Playthings! For this you keep us waiting," the women grumbled angrily. "One cannot eat wires." An old toothless woman shook her hand at Condi. The miller shrugged. "There are some wires out back. Take those and go." In the back of the mill there was an open door. Inside the door was a pile of old motor parts. There, Condi found some very thin wires wrapped in red and yellow and green plastic. "I can scrape the coating off," Condi thought. "These wires will hold my galimoto together." Still, he did not have enough for a galimoto.
Mwana wang'ono, sungagwire nyama imeneyo choncho.
Condi passed some young children playing on an anthill. One was Mundi, the small sister of his friend Gift. She had a fine, long piece of wire, which she stuck into the hard dirt. "Little friend," Condi called as he came near, "you cannot catch an ant that way. Go, fetch some water, for with that and a stick we will fool them."
Ukhoza kutenga ndolo yangayi, ine nditenge wayayo.
When Mundi came back, Condi poured the water around one of the holes. "Now they will think the rains have begun," he explained. Then he stuck a stick down the hole. Gently he pulled it out, and on the end was a large ant. "My stick is better than a wire for catching ants. You may have the stick and I'll take the wire." Condi knew there was a trash heap behind the bicycle repair shop, but the gate was locked. Condi climbed over the fence. In the courtyard, he found some broken, bent spokes from a bicycle. He climbed back over the fence with his bag.
Wakuba! Titendiseni apolisi! Wakuba!
"Thief! Help! Police! Thief!" Condi heard a voice call. Children came running from the marketplace. Men came running from the shops. They made a circle around Condi. "Thief! Thief!" they chanted, pointing at Condi.
Ndikufuna galimoto. Ndikufuna mawaya wao.
A policeman arrived. He grabbed Condi by the shoulder. "What are you doing?" he asked. Condi showed the policeman his wires. "I want a galimoto," he explained. "I need these wires." "Galimoto," the crowd murmured. "Galimoto." They shook their heads and went back to their business. "Take your wires and go," the policeman told Condi. Condi took his wires back to the shade of the red flame trees in his village. Nearby, His mother and sisters pounded their maize. They sang of the hard work they were doing. Condi sorted his wires. There were thick pieces and thin pieces. Some wires were long and some were short. Condi banged the bent and twisted ones with a stone to straighten them. Then he began. The thick wires made the frame. He wrapped the very thinnest wires at the joints to hold the galimoto together. My galimoto will be a pickup, Condi planned. It will carry maize to the city and it will have an antenna for the radio. He smiled. Condi worked all afternoon. He pounded the strongest wires around a pipe to make the round wheels. A sturdy piece of bamboo made the rod for the steering wheel.
wapezano mawaya okwanira inde.
Finally, the warm, toasty smell of maize porridge cooking over the village fires told Condi it was time to go home. His brothers and sisters admired his work. "So, you found enough wire," Ufulu said. "Yes," Condi agreed. He parked his galimoto next to his box of things and ate his supper.
Bola mwezi wali binova kuti lelo litisewere.
Let the moon be bright for us to play and sing tonight. Condi could hear his friends singing in the distance. They were calling him to play. Now he carefully guided his galimoto over the dusty path. "Galimoto!" someone cheered, and one by one Condi's friends formed a line behind him. "Hey! Galimoto! Galimoto!" they began to chant. Condi saw the shadow of his galimoto cast by the moonlight racing alongside. "It's a fine galimoto," he thought proudly. "Perhaps tomorrow I shall make my galimoto into an ambulance, or an airplane, or a helicopter." The end.
Condi searches his village looking for wire. Can you remember what he does to find the wire? Click one of the pictures to begin searching for wire. What does Condi do? Read the sentences and move the correct one to the picture. Condi trades his knife for Gift's wires. Terrific! What does Condi do first? Condi takes wires and a knife from his box. You've got it! What does Condi do here? Condi trades his knife with Uncle. Condi takes wires from Uncle's packing boxes. That's right! What does Condi do here? Condi gets wires of many colors from the miller. Good job! What is happening here? Condi trades his stick for Mundi's wire. Fantastic! How does Condi find the last wires for his Galimoto? Condi finds bent spokes from an old bicycle. Super! Way to search! You remembered all the ways Condi found his wire. Condi talks with many people in the story. What do you suppose he is thinking in each of these pictures? Match sentences to the pictures. Drag each sentence to the correct picture. This will be a good trade. That's right. I will prove I can get enough wires. You've got it. To start, I will need wire and my knife. Way to go! You matched Condi's thoughts. Now imagine what the people with Condi might be thinking. Match the sentences to the other people. That boy shouldn't go out of turn. What a thought! That clever boy can have my wires. Good thinking! His stick is better than this wire. Right on! You're really thinking now. Condi lives far away in a country called Malawi. Imagine that he writes you a pen pal letter.
Dear friend, my name is Condi and I live in Malawi. I will tell you about myself. I hope that you will tell me about yourself too. At our house, we speak Chichewa, the language that most families speak in my country. In school, I am learning English. My favorite subject in school is agriculture, where I learn how to farm. My favorite food is salted caterpillar skins. They are delicious. You should try them. My favorite toy is my Galimoto. What is yours? I love to play soccer with my friends. What game do you like? Now you know something about me. Please tell me about yourself. Your friend, Condi.